Yo, what's up? What's up, my listeners? Welcome back to Vixen116 Radio. Um, shit. Chat. I'm your host. Your host, your Shadow, your favorite Shadow Wolf from here on the island. And today we're going to take a deep dive into the evolution of gaming, all the way from the early 1980s up to the gaming powerhouses we know today. Now, yes, Chad, you're probably wondering why my webcam is not on. It actually broke, statistically speaking. And some of you may have had the privilege of experiencing the glory days of arcade classics to early home consoles, but let me tell you, as a young wolf, I wasn't there. My gaming journey started when the world was on the brink of revolution, when the release of the Xbox. That's right. I'm talking about the launch of the original Xbox back in 2001, which, changed the way the games for me because I started playing Xbox way back in the day. And I'm talking on the original Kinect, Xbox games and stuff like that. Um, So, and then look. So, Chad, buckle up, grab your controller. Let's explore how gaming went from humble beginnings to the great industry it is now. And we'll talk about the origins of gaming, the moments that defined the entire generations, on how a young wolf like me came up in the Xbox era, experienced the thrilling evolution. From pixelated blocks to 4K graphics, from solo missions to massive online multiplayer worlds. This episode is going to be packed with nostalgia, insight, maybe a little bit of that old school gamer pride. Let's jump into the past and trace the steps that led us to where we are now in the gaming world. Now, before we get into the meat of this episode, let me remind you, while I missed out on some of those classic '80s arcade moments, I've definitely made up for it over the years by playing Halo, Reach, Fable, and some other stuff like that, and countless hours spent in the Xbox ecosystem. So if you're ready to take a trip down memory lane and explore the wild ride, that's the gaming history. Let's get started. Also, chat, before we go down memory lane, go show our sponsor some love. W.GG #sponsored #partnership. And if y'all like to save 10% off your purchase on W.GG's website, y'all can use my affiliate code, my discount code ZH116, which will give y'all 10% off your purchase. So, chat, let's continue it. So, chat, also, I want to go ahead and touch on something, chat. I'm actually looking at upgrading my camera, my webcam, like I've been wanting to do. All right, let's take it all back. Let's take it back to where it all started in 1980s, the golden era of arcades, where games like Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, and Space Invaders ruled the world. Now, I wasn't around for those arcade classics, but I can't help but to respect the legends that paved the way for everything that came after. If you were lucky enough to experience the arcades in their heyday, you know what I'm talking about. There was something magical about those machines. The bright lights, the sound of coins clinking, and the competitive energy trying to get to the highest score. These games were simple, by today's standard, but they introduced us to concepts of score, chasing that thrill, leveling up. Fast forward to the late 80s, we started seeing the home consoles like the Atari 2600 NES. These consoles brought the arcade experience into your living room, which was a game changer for the NES. In particular, launched an iconic franchise like Super Mario Bros., The Legend of Zelda, and um, I can't even speak. Meteoroid. It's easy to take for granted now, but these games were revolutionary for their time. They set the foundation for what would later become some of the biggest franchises in gaming. Even though it didn't just get, it didn't even know I didn't get to experience these classics first, and I felt a legacy when I started gaming in the early to late 2000s is when I started gaming. Now moving on into the 90s, as we're gonna go into the 90s, chat. This things really started to pick up. There was a decade where we saw the birth of 3D gaming, the rise of PlayStation, Nintendo 64, Super Mario 64. So let's get back on topic. Super Mario 64. These were the groundbreaking moments in the industry. Even though I thought I wasn't old enough to play these games, when they were, and even though I wasn't born yet to play these games when they were released, I remember, watching on YouTube and on TV and stuff, television, stuff like that, and thinking this is next level. These weren't just games anymore; they were an entire world. Like Mario 64 was a game changer because it was the first major 3D platform. It set the standard for 3D controls. It was a whole new experience. It opened up possibilities for game design. The concept of free roaming in 3D space felt like nothing we had ever seen before. Can you fuck off? Take that. Chad, y'all just missed that. I just kicked the troll. EM, you're shocked that I just did that, aren't you? Don't interrupt me when I'm narrating. So, that God damn it, that dude just made me lose my train of thought. Nah, shit. But let's fast forward, chat. Yep. But chat, let's fast forward to my era, the 2000s, when the original Xbox made its debut. That's where my journey began as a young kid. Playing the original Xbox Connect games and stuff like that, playing the Animal Crossing on Xbox and doing bowling stuff like that, golf, you name it. I did it as a kid. And man, it was a wild ride for me. Lots of games, the Xbox console. Look, chat, right there is where my journey begins. And man, it was a wild ride for a lot of gamers. The Xbox was like the console that took gaming to the next level. For me, it was a whole new world. Halo was one of the games that defined game. That's one of my games that I played, and I played the one game that defined my early gaming years. It was Call of Duty MW4. It wasn't just a game; it was an experience. First time I jumped into a actual Modern Warfare 4 mission. It was like me being in the military. Chat. It was awesome, man. Um, and I felt involved. And the combat I was involved, I was hooked. The storytelling, the combat mechanics, the multiplayer was like anything I'd ever played before. It was the dawn of online console gaming, and Xbox Live became the way of life. I'll never forget the first time I joined a public, Call of Duty Zombies match online. The adrenaline rush, the chaos, going for high rounds. It has a connection with people from all over. That's something that was hard to replicate back then. Xbox had a vision of an online multiplayer universe in a lot of ways that changed for how we view online gaming today. And Xbox didn't just bring us Halo; they brought us, Fable, Forza Motorsports, the Elder Scrolls, Morrowind, and all of what shaped how we play, including Black Ops 1, MW2, MW3, and how we play RPG racing games and open world adventures today. And let's not forget Live, Xbox Live. When the service launched, chat, it wasn't just about playing games. It was online. It was about creating a community, finding friends, building something bigger than just a game you were playing. It was revolutionary. And it was the moment that solidified Xbox as a major player in the gaming industry. And of course, we can't talk about evolution of game without mentioning the rise of consoles like the PS2 and the GameCube. The PS2 was an absolute powerhouse. I mean, it had Grand Theft Auto 3, Final Fantasy, Metal Gear Solid 2. The PS2 became the best-selling console of all time for a reason. But as much as I was drawn to Xbox, as much I was just hooked on Xbox, chat, and I ended up ignoring ignoring what PlayStation was doing. And I didn't get my very first PlayStation until 2014, which was the PS4. So I never experienced the PS2 or the PS3. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Now let's zoom ahead to the next generation, Xbox 360, PS3, and I actually played my nephew's PS3 like 15 years ago, and on the Wii. Man, that was fun. The Wii, and this was the era where gaming truly became a mainstream. The Xbox brought us Gears of War, Halo 3, and Mass Effect. This was the golden age of Xbox Live and get multiplayer gaming, reach new heights. But it wasn't just about the hardcore games. This would brought emotion-controlled games, making gaming more accessible to everyone, and don't even get me started on the PS3 with Uncharted, the graphics, storytelling. This was and I've watched an Uncharted series storytelling game on PS3, and this was a point where gaming was no longer just for kids; it was for everyone, no matter your age or background. One thing I will never forget, chat, is I actually have, and believe it or not, I actually have an original Xbox Live membership card from the 2000s. Dude, that's how old I am. Chat, you're old when you have the original Xbox gift cards from back in the day, because how they're all green now. I have them when they were orange, green, and white. Now, as we stand in the present, gaming's bigger than ever. We've got 4K gaming, VR experiences, multiplayer worlds. that are more connected ever. We've got Fortnite, Apex Legends, Call of Duty Warzone. These games have changed how we interact with each other in the virtual world. It's no longer just about winning a game. It's about the culture, the community, the experiences we share. I might not have been there in the 80s and the 90s, but every step of the way, the gaming community has felt like home. And that's why when I think about it, how far we've come, I'm proud to be a part of this wild, ever-changing world. So where do we go? Where do we go from here? Who knows? We're just beginning to scratch the surface of what's possible in gaming, from VR to augmented reality and artificial intelligence. The future of gaming is going to be nothing short of incredible. One thing is for sure: no matter how much evolves in the core the core of gaming will always be the same, and shared experience and the love for the game and community will continue to grow. Um, all right, everybody, we're wrapping up this deep dive into the evolution of gaming, and I want to thank you for taking the time, taking coming on. Thank you for taking this journey with me from those arcades to today's next gen consoles. Gaming has changed and will continue to change. But whether you're there in the 80s or you just joined the gaming world in the Xbox era like me, then one thing's for sure, we're all part of this gaming legacy. So until next time, keep gaming, keep pushing the boundaries, and always have a blessed day, everybody. This has been your host, Shadow, aka Silverfang, signing off.